The bar was quiet, the kind of quiet you only find at the edge of a station that has seen too many wars end without anyone winning. I was sitting alone with my drink when the young one sat across from me, a cadet, fresh uniform, eyes too bright for someone who had never seen real combat. "They told me you fought in the war," she said. "The one against the humans." I did not answer right away. I turned my glass slowly, watching the liquid catch the dim light. "I did," I finally said. "Then tell me," she said, leaning forward. "Tell me about the worst battle, the biggest one. I heard you were at the fall of Threshold Station." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because she was asking the wrong question. "Everyone wants to hear about the big battles," I said. "The ones with 1,000 ships and fire in the sky. Those are easy to talk about. They are loud, they make good stories for children. So what should I ask instead?" I looked at her for a long moment. "Ask me about the quiet ones, the small ones. Those are the ones that still visit me when I try to sleep." She sat back, uncertain now, like she had opened a door to something she did not expect. "All right," she said softly. "Tell me about a quiet one." I closed my eyes and let the memory come. There was a moon, barren and gray, orbiting a planet neither side cared about except for its position. My unit was sent to clear out a small human outpost there. No more than 30 soldiers dug into the rock. We had 300. We expected it to be over in an hour. It was not over in an hour. It was not over in a day. The humans had no reinforcements coming. Their supply lines were cut. They knew this. We knew this. And still, they did not surrender. Instead, they did something I will never forget. They organized. Even with 30 against 300, even with no hope of rescue, they built a rotation. Some slept while others held the line. They rationed water down to the drop. They repaired their own equipment with pieces of ours that we lost in failed advances. 5 days. They held that position for 5 days with numbers that should have broken in the first hour. "How is that terrifying?" the cadet asked, frowning. "That sounds brave." "It was brave," I said. "That is exactly why it was terrifying. We were trained to fight enemies who wanted to win. Humans in that outpost did not care about winning. They cared about not losing, which is a very different kind of fighting. An enemy who wants to win will retreat when the numbers turn hopeless. An enemy who refuses to lose will simply keep going, past the point where retreat makes any sense at all." I took a slow breath. When we finally broke through, there were only 6 of them left. 6, out of 30, still standing, still organized, still passing tools to each other without a word. They did not celebrate when we stopped firing. They did not look relieved. They looked like they had simply been doing a job, and the job was now finished. The cadet was quiet for a moment. What happened to them? They were taken as prisoners of war, treated fairly, as our laws required. But I remember walking past their cell that night. One of them, the youngest, looked up at me and said something in their language. Our translator told me later what it meant. What did he say? He said, "You took 5 days to do what should have taken 1 hour. Was it worth it?" I let that sit in the air for a moment, the same way it had sat in my mind for years. That was the moment I understood something about humans that no briefing had ever taught me. They do not measure a fight by the size of the enemy. They measure it by how long they can make the enemy pay for every step forward. The cadet shifted in her seat. "You said there were other memories, quieter ones." I nodded slowly. There was another, from later in the war. This one was not about numbers. It was about how they think. She waited, and I continued. We had captured a communication relay deep in contested territory, a small station meant to route messages between human fleets. It was supposed to be undefended, a soft target, an easy win to boost morale after a string of losses. When we landed, we found only 2 humans inside, 2, in a station meant for a crew of 20. We searched the rest of the station, certain we were walking into an ambush. We found nothing, just those 2, sitting calmly at a console, waiting for us. "Why would only 2 remain?" the cadet asked. "Did the others retreat?" "That is what we thought too," I said. "We thought it was a trap, or a trick, or that we had misjudged their numbers." My commander ordered them both restrained and questioned immediately. "And?" They told us the truth without hesitation. The rest of the crew had already been evacuated 3 days earlier. Once command realized the station could not be properly defended, these two stayed behind, volunteered to stay behind. Why would they do that? To keep sending false information for as long as possible. Fake fleet positions, fake supply reports, fake troop numbers. All of it designed to make our commanders believe things that were not true. They knew capture was certain. They knew what waited for them once we arrived, and they chose to stay anyway, because 2 extra days of false signals might save thousands of their people elsewhere. I paused, remembering the calm way they had answered our questions, no fear in their voices, only a strange kind of peace. That was the first time I understood something frightening about how humans make decisions. They are willing to trade a small, certain loss for a small, possible gain, over and over again, if it helps the larger fight. Not out of foolishness, out of calculation. Cold, deliberate calculation, wrapped in something that looked almost like calm. That is unsettling, the cadet admitted. It gets more unsettling, I said, because the fake information worked. 3 of our supply convoys changed routes based on what those 2 gave us. It took 2 weeks for command to realize the data was false. By then, the damage was done. The cadet was silent again, processing this. I let her sit with it before continuing. But the memory I still cannot shake, the one that visits me most nights, was not about strategy or endurance. It was about something else, something I did not expect from an enemy at all. What was it? I set my glass down, no longer interested in drinking. Near the end of the war, my ship was damaged in a battle above a human colony world. Badly damaged, I ejected before it broke apart, and my pod came down hard in a forest at the edge of a human settlement. You landed in enemy territory, alone. Alone, injured, and certain I would not survive the night. I had no weapon. My leg was broken. I could hear voices approaching through the trees, human voices, and I remember thinking, this is where it ends. The cadet leaned forward, completely still now. But it was not soldiers who found me. It was a family. A farmer, his partner, and 2 children, who had heard the pod come down and walked out to see what had happened. I expected them to call for their military immediately. Instead, the farmer knelt beside me and looked at my leg. He helped you? He set my leg as best he could, using tools from his own home. His partner brought water. The children stood back, frightened, but curious. I remember trying to speak, to explain I was the enemy, that they should call someone, that I did not deserve this kindness. The farmer did not seem to care what side I was on. He only said one thing, which the translator in my suit picked up clearly. What did he say? He said, "You are hurt. That matters more right now." I paused again, letting the memory settle. They called their local authorities eventually, and I was taken as a prisoner of war, treated properly under their laws. But that family did not have to help me. They had every reason to leave me there, or worse. Instead, they chose to see an injured person before they saw an enemy soldier. "Why does that frighten you?" the cadet asked quietly. "It sounds kind." "Because kindness like that is unpredictable," I said. I had spent years learning how humans fight, how they defend, how they endanger themselves for strategy. I had built an entire understanding of them as calculating, relentless, impossible to break. And then one family, with no strategic reason at all, showed me something that did not fit that picture. It made me realize I did not understand them as well as I believed. An enemy you cannot fully predict is far more frightening than one you can. The cadet sat back slowly, absorbing everything I had told her. "So which was worse?" she finally asked. "The soldiers who would not surrender, the 2 who sacrificed themselves for false information, or the family who helped their enemy for no reason at all?" I thought about the question for a long time before answering. "None of them were worse," I said. "That is the truest answer I can give you. They were all the same thing, seen from different angles. Humans do not fight like an enemy who wants to win a war. They fight like beings who have already decided what kind of people they want to be, no matter the cost, no matter the situation. Soldiers who hold a position past all reason. Volunteers who trade their freedom for 2 days of false signals. A farmer who helps an enemy soldier because kindness matters more to him than the uniform. All of it comes from the same place. What place is that? A refusal to be anything less than who they already decided to be, whether the moment calls for endurance, sacrifice, or mercy. That is what I could never train against. You can prepare for weapons. You can prepare for tactics. You cannot fully prepare for an enemy whose spirit simply refuses to bend to the shape of the war around it. The cadet was quiet for a long moment, staring into her own drink now, though she had not touched it once during my story. "Do you hate them?" she asked finally. "After everything?" I considered the question honestly, the way I always did when someone asked it. "No," I said. "I do not hate them. I respect them, more than I respect most allies I have fought beside. Fear and respect are not opposites, little one. Sometimes they grow from exactly the same root." She nodded slowly, understanding settling into her young face. "The war ended a long time ago," I added. "Peace between our peoples has held longer than the war itself ever lasted. But I still think about that moon, that relay station, that forest, more often than I think about any victory I was part of. Because those moments taught me something no battle ever could. What is that? That the most dangerous thing in any war is not a weapon or a fleet. It is a will that refuses to break, wrapped around a heart that still remembers how to be kind. Humans carried both at once, and that, more than anything else I saw in that war, is what I will never forget." The cadet sat with that for a long while, and outside the bar, the station lights dimmed toward the artificial night, quiet settling over us both like something earned.